Hello everybody and welcome back to the Siege Mailbox. This is a video series where you the viewer post your Siege related questions and topic discussions, and there's a chance they'll make it into the video. Feel free to post your questions and anything Siege related in the comment section right now you want to talk about. And I just want to also say we've opened up a new channel in my Discord server purely for posting mailbox questions. I'll have my Discord linked in the description if you want to go check that out, but we're going to start including questions from there as well. So this first one says there should be a Wamai/Jager style operator on attack. This would help with C4s and smoke canisters. So basically an attack version of Jager, which I definitely think would be a really cool concept and cool gadget for an attacker. I'm not sure how you would balance it because you do run the risk of just allowing to go for a rush plan every time by using it. So there would have to be some downside to it. One of my viewers has sort of been talking about a style like this for a while as well, and he proposes something similar to like Zero's Argus camera where you shoot it into the wall, but instead of it actually being a camera, it will catch projectiles. I definitely think there is a version of this which would fit the attacking team while still being fair to the defenders. I feel like they'd maybe go down the route of a gadget similar to Wamai, where instead of it just like destroying the gadget, it maybe pulls it in or does something to it, but that gadget isn't necessarily destroyed, or it will still detonate, for example, if it is a nitro cell, but maybe there is some form of delay to that. So let's say you're gonna go for a plan and you deploy this new gadget to stop projectiles. Let's say it catches a nitro cell, it doesn't destroy it, jammer or something like that, which stops it exploding for, let's say, I don't know, 5 seconds, maybe even less. It would have to be a period of time which is less than the duration it takes to plant the diffuser. So it means that if you are going for a plant, you can't just throw down this gadget and it will protect you the whole time. Because if they throw a nitro cell, for example, at the start of your plant duration, and this begins to disable it for a few seconds, you still won't have enough time to finish that planting cycle before the gadget then becomes usable again. But what it does give you time to do is get off that plant and go to safety before that defender can then detonate the nitro cell, and then maybe it gives you a chance to then destroy the nitro cell before they get that chance, and then you can go for the plant again. I think a gadget that would simply just destroy a nitro cell or a smoke canister would be way too strong for the attacking team, because you would bring that every single time, lob it on a doorway and just go for your plant, and they have absolutely no projectile denial to stop that plant. But I think if we take the concept of Jager, Wamai, Mute, and Tubarão and mash them together into an attacking gadget where it catches a defender's projectile, doesn't destroy it like Wamai does, but like Mute and Tubarão, it slows down the process of its detonation. I still think that would be very fair for the defenders, and it doesn't necessarily guarantee the attack to get a free plant off every single time. Just something to give you a tiny bit of protection of when they throw a nitro cell, you can begin to react, and you probably still have to get off the diffuser unless you have multiple teammates covering you. Maybe the defender doesn't even have to detonate it after this gadget has caught it. Maybe it can be simply just like Wamai, and once it is finished doing its thing, it detonates said gadget, which then would require you to smartly place this gadget, because you might in turn be given the defender by dragging their misplaced nitro cell towards you. I think a lot of risks that come with Wamai's gadgets could be applied to this attacking projectile catcher. But no, I definitely think this has a place on the attacking team, and I would love to see them experiment with something like this, and I'm sure they would be able to find a nice fair middle ground for an attacking version of Jager. Here we have our first ever one from the Discord, and that is from Youngfly, and they say, recently Ubisoft gave Maestro a skin where he looks older. Do you think Ubi should update the physical looks of every operator and their outfit/gear to match their current role in the appropriate faction, and update the rainbow ops that are in Nighthaven? Now, this is gonna have a lot of different layers to answer, so I'll talk about like the Maestro skin where he's a bit older, and a few other skins where operators look a bit older, such as the Blackbeard skin, which also came in that battle pass, which gave him a bit more of a grey beard, as well as giving him a redhammer badge on his uniform. So, fellow loreheads like myself, I'm gonna say something which we may not like the answer to, but we just simply have to accept due to the style of what Siege is. And that is the fact that our operators technically don't age. They don't really change, and they don't progress with real time. It's not my favorite thing in the world either, but it's something we simply have to accept due to the way that Siege is a live service game and not like a traditional campaign where you can just age operators across different games. We're simply just gonna have to accept that. Like, talking about that Blackbeard skin, for example, where he's wearing the redhammer uniform and a bit more grey in his beard, you would assume, okay, that's what he looks like now because he has aged a little bit, and of course he's part of redhammer and everything. But then when you start to look at the lore and you look at the promotional images and everything for the new Blackbeard rework, he looks exactly the same as he did when he joined the game back in 2016. So it is just one of those things that we are just going to have to accept and overlook. But it is pretty cool that they have made some skins to show us what the aged versions of these operators would look like. So although they're not going to change Blackbeard's base look across the entire game to look like this skin, they've at least said, hey, this is what Blackbeard looks like now a few years on after he's joined the game. Now he's part of redhammer and everything. So in our little head canons of the game, we can accept that this is what Blackbeard now looks like, and we're just gonna have to overlook the fact of operators not aging in the story and stuff like that. Same case with Maestro as well. He's of course aged. That is what that skin is giving us a glimpse into, but it's just something that they probably won't run with from a narrative standpoint and a promotional standpoint as to what Maestro looks like. But for us who care about this stuff, it is really cool that they have done that, and I really do like these skins. Do I wish they would do it more? 100%. That is why I'm saying this answer has a lot of layers, because then that kind of pushes me into a different argument about like skin direction and Siege and how I don't like a lot of the skins they produce, and I would like more skins like this showing an aged version of the operators in a grounded uniform. Operators wearing gears from their respective squads. I would take all of that over some wacky skin or, you know, that new Thorn membership bundle, which is abysmal. I would take skins like that over them any day. Which I know is fair enough. They're trying to diverse their skins. They're trying to, you know, appeal to as many people as possible by doing wacky skins and grounded skins and stuff like that. But, you know, if I had it my way, I would have a lot clearer of a skin direction. I'd still keep the wacky skins, don't get me wrong, but I think it would be less all over the place than I think it currently is right now. But to answer the question, like a base update across the board for every operator to maintain them aging would just be too much effort for all it's worth. But I think it is cool when they make skins to show us what they would look like if they were to age them with the game's progression. This one by Temp says, Rook's armor improvement was shown as the elite skin in lore. Do you think every elite skin should be an improvement to the gadgets lore-wise if they ever have an involvement in it? So for you guys who don't watch my lore videos, what this person is referring to is the fact that in the cinematic where Deimos is captured by Rainbow, our operator survived because Rook has an improved version of his armor after they discovered that the Kira's Legion's ordnance could penetrate his armor in the previous comic book. Now, when I done a breakdown of the cinematic, one thing I noticed is the armor pack which Rook places isn't his typical one, rather they showcased it as his elite skin one, which was a visual way of showing that his armor has changed from previous. So if I'm taking your question correctly, you're saying that would this be applied to every other elite skin if they were to go down that route to say, hey, this gadget's getting improved, and then they showcase the elite skin version of it in the cinematics and lore? I mean, like, it's a cool idea to think about, but considering how over the place all elite skins are, and just like some of them are just like, you know, like Dokubi's elite skin is just like rubbish if we're being honest. I feel like maybe it would be cool like if we did have like a chain of elite skins where it's like an improved version of that operator, sort of like that operator supreme, if that makes sense. But I feel just at the end of the day, what happened in this cinematic was simply that they wanted a visual way to showcase that Rook's armor has changed from the time of him and Mira doing the testing with the ordnance they recovered from the tower attack. And they were probably like, well, we need a visual way to show Rook's armor has changed. He already has an elite version of the gadget bag in game. Why don't we just use that? So I think it was just a bit of fun visual storytelling. That armor pack already exists from a community standpoint. Like, we know what that looks like. Of course, these cinematics are made from like a different company, so they would have had to have modeled this and everything. It's not like they just use assets from the game. That's not how these cinematics work at all. But I feel like it was just simply, hey, we need a visual way to showcase that this is different Rook armor. Well, we already have an existing variant of Rook's armor in the game. Why not just run with that one? I don't think it's anything much more deeper than that, and I doubt it will become like a reoccurring thing. If they wanted to, something I think they could have done which would have been really cool was just design an entirely new armor pack completely, like make a brand new unique one in the cinematic, then include that as a gadget skin in the battle pass for that said season alongside the Rook bundle that came with it. That's a conversation for another time, but Ubisoft severely sleep on the fact that there's gadget customization in this game and hardly do anything with it. We're actually going to stay on the topic of that Rook skin and Rook in general with this next one by Braden, which says, should Rook armor make you take less damage to make it accurate to his cinematic if it hits where Rook armor is worn? So what I believe you're saying is, if you take the model of Rook, if you take this man's entire hitbox, and still keep the overall health benefits you get from Rook armor currently, but as well as this, taking his hitbox and adding a very reinforced version at the center of his body where these armor plates are, and actually give him more resistant to bullets if he is shot directly in the chest where the armor plates are. And I think this Rook bundle is a very good way of showcasing this, because where deimos shot him is shown on this uniform, so you can sort of visualize where you as the player would also be shooting him as well for him to get this protection. And honestly, I actually see this working, and I think this would be very cool, and I still think it'd be very balanced, because again, this doesn't mean this would be applied to his entire body. You still have the headshots as well. You can still shoot him in the shoulder, lower torso, legs, feet, everything. But if Rook is truly shot in the chest where these armor plates are, he takes significantly less damage as he would compared to any other part of his body. You'd still, of course, kill him if you shot him enough. I'm not saying this makes him bulletproof in the chest, but it would have a much lower damage multiplier than it would be hitting any other part of his body. Gameplay-wise, they can totally do this because other limbs and everything already have different attributes of how much damage they take. So I can't imagine it be too much for them to change a certain part of his torso to have a different multiplier as well. And if it isn't obvious enough, I feel like I should mention this would only be applied to Rook. It wouldn't be applied to everyone who wears his armor plates. You know what? I think you're really cooking here, so I'm gonna actually focus more on this in a different video looking at Rook and maybe some really cool ways we could sort of improve him. But I actually really like this idea. This next one is by Sandnudes, and they say Finka should get a buff to her stim, where the less team count, the stronger the heal is. Finka is the only healer in attack and needs more reliability on the amount of healing it attributes in total. Okay, so I find that quite interesting. So if you are healing 5 attackers, because you'd be including yourself as well, it would be the current healing it is right now. But let's just say it was only Finka and another attacker left. If she went on to heal, there would be more health spread across those 2 operators since everyone else is dead. Does that make sense lore-wise? Not at all. But from a gameplay perspective, would that be a good thing? In a sense, yes, because it would reward the Finka even more for staying alive into the late round when other teammates may have not done it. It would cause you to treat the Finka as much more valuable than other attackers as well. But it also does come into question as well is how much healing would people get? Like if it was just Finka by herself in like a 1v4 and she heals, like how much would that actually heal her to a point where you're like, this isn't fair? Then again, a dot can heal himself to 100 HP, so who knows if that sort of is the same in a balancing philosophy and it is actually fair. It's something I'd like to see at least go to a test server. I feel like the test server isn't utilized as much, so I think that would be really cool for a test server to see how it is. I just feel like Finka in general as an operator is just such a weird operator to have. So I feel like even doing tweaks like this, I don't know if like you can like even just potentially just break her and make her too strong. I think she's in a good spot right now. I don't necessarily dislike this idea. I just think Finka's a very weird operator to tweak and balance. And yeah, I don't know what they would do with Finka going forward, to be honest. This next one is by Pure Easy, and they have 2 ideas. The first of which is an operator with bullets that can cause poison damage, and if they aren't removed in time, it works similar to Legion. I think that'd be a very cool thing. I don't know if it would be poison bullets. That could necessarily be a thing, but it could also be a gadget which you could deploy similar to Ashen Grim. So it comes from a launcher, and then it's proximity based like a Nomad air jab, but it'll explode similar to Thorn's Razor Bloom and give you a lesion pricking effect. You could also make it as an underbarrel on a weapon as well. But I think that could be quite cool as a new form of area denial for the attacking team, because it doesn't intrude on Grim, it doesn't necessarily intrude on Capitao, that's his name, and Nomad as well. I think it's sort of like a nice mix of all those operators and like a little bit of Gridlock Track Stinger in as well. I also think a lot of the limping effect could be included in this. I know I talk about that quite a lot, but I feel like that's quite an interesting mechanic they added with the Frost rework, and I think a lot of operators such as Thorn, such as Gridlock, could actually benefit from their gadgets having this. Next up, you also proposed 3 new secondary gadgets. One of them is a sound alarm. The other is something which is quite a similar version of like a pocket version of Grim, and another one which is a pocket version of Smoke. So in previous mailboxes, we've kind of covered something like this for pretty much all 3 of them, but I'll run through them. So we talked about a proximity sound alarm before. I think it has a place. You've already got gadgets like Ram's Boogie and Gridlock Track Stingers, which emit a lot of noise to mass sound, so why not have a secondary attacking gadget to do that as well, to like cover a plant, for example? I think that's, yeah, something that should come 100%. A pocket-sized version of Grim's gadget, I don't really think we need that. I think that Grim does his job fine as a standalone operator. We've talked about a pocket version of like an incendiary grenade, so like a pocket version of Capitao basically. I think that's a bit more fitting rather than like a pocket version of Grim, because the sort of issue of having a pocket-sized version of Grim is that if you throw that down, it only affects defenders. Like an attacker can just run through that and stuff like that, so you're getting really free area denial and area controls an attacker with absolutely no risk. Whereas if you use fire, attackers can't enter that area. At the same time, defenders can't enter the area. So there's a slight difference between them, so I think fire would work better than Grimby's. And you also say like a secondary version of like a smoke canister, which I assume you mean as an attacker, but I feel like, again, that should just be grouped under like the Molotov / incendiary grenade sort of thing, as more of a fire-based gadget. I think that works a lot better as a secondary gadget than sort of like a pocket Grim or a pocket smoke. This next one is by Cross, and they say, I like the Blackbeard rework, but I was surprised that they took away his sidearm. No more Deagle 50 for him. Now Nook is the only attacker who has the Deagle as a sidearm. Now, this is something I want to talk about in a different video addressing the Blackbeard rework, because I made a community post asking if, do you think the Blackbeard rework was good? Do you think it's fair? Do you think he's OP? Do you think he's too weak? And do you think remasters are a good thing for a season, even if they are replacing a said brand new operator in a sense? Me personally, I think they've done an absolutely incredible job with Blackbeard, and even when a lot of people have agreed with me on that and they say, yeah, I actually think they've done really good with Blackbeard and I think he's quite well balanced, I see a lot of people saying that they wish that he still had the Deagle. And of course, the reason why he doesn't have a secondary gun anymore is because he is all primary weapons. He is a very unique shield operator, and that is the fact that he still carries a primary whilst also carrying a shield, because he has a special shield which is collapsible, and you know, it doesn't work like Monty and all that. It's a completely different shield setup. And so one of the things they did was remove secondary weapons, because there's not really any place for a secondary weapon in Blackbeard, because if he goes to switch weapon, all it will do is put the shield on his back and he'll still have his primary weapon. And to me, that made a lot of sense, but a lot of people in my comments were saying, okay, I get that, but why not add the Deagle as another option as a primary weapon? So the options will be the Scar assault rifle, his DMR, and a third option if you want to bring the Deagle. And my thinking was, well, why would you want to bring the Deagle over an assault rifle or DMR? It's not really much point on them putting the effort to do that when he's already got two better options and no one will use the Deagle. But a lot of people actually gave me a pretty good response to this, and they say, well, the Deagle could have a bit more of a different property than the assault rifles could do. So of course you've got the power of the assault rifles, the fact that they are assault rifles and DMR, I should say primary weapons, not assault rifles, but the fact that you have a primary weapon where you can just drop the shield and use them is already a good thing in itself. But there are some people who would like the option of playing maybe a different playstyle with Blackbeard, and if they bring the Deagle instead of those assault rifles, they would be granted a faster ADS time with the Deagle than they would compared to the assault rifles. So it would grant you an advantage in that sense, but then the downside of that is obviously that you're still using a Deagle, so that's still less ammo capacity, that's not going to be doing as much as an assault rifle can, but you are still getting the benefits of like a faster ADS time and maybe even, I don't know, faster walking speed or something like that. I still feel at the end of the day, for all it's worth, he's just fine keeping the primary weapons he has right now. I think people are just kind of reminiscing on the Deagle because that's something he had last season before the rework and everything like that. I understand that implementing the Deagle into his loadout could lead to a unique way to play him, which is different from the other two primary weapons, but I think at the end of the day, when it comes from like a, you know, a gameplay perspective and a resource perspective, doing all that to implement the fact that he now has a Deagle as a primary weapon for what seems to be a very small payout, which a lot of people probably won't even use anyway, I still don't think is necessarily worth it. Doesn't mean I don't like the idea, it doesn't mean I don't understand that argument, I just think it's probably just not worth the effort, if we're being honest. But I can't deny that it's cool and it's actually a pretty good idea. And so everybody, that's going to do it for this episode of the Siege Mailbox. Be sure to let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Drop your questions for the next episode. Check out the Discord server where we'll have more places for you to ask questions and everything, and you can interact with me a bit more. I'm trying to be a bit more active on Discord. Drop a like on this video if you did enjoy. Subscribe if you're new. Catch you on the next video. I love you all. Stay safe. Peace.